just did a live Q&A earlier today.
Yep.
It must have come up at least 3-4 times. Steel shafts in the irons versus graphite shafts. People have heard the advantages of potentially going to a graphite, but they're afraid of a performance downturn, some kind of a deficiency, and why they would not want to switch to graphite. So kind of what we want to do today is Leo's swing comfortably, drivers in the 130s.
Yeah.
One of the fastest swings I've seen in person. So Leo's going to really put a lot of stress and strain on this LA Golf A Series.
L Series
shaft.
Yep.
Graphite shaft, and compare it to his C-Taper 130 X, which is probably one of the stiffest shafts you've tested in steel.
Yeah.
So what we want to expose is, one, can a player at a slower swing speed switch to graphite and not have performance disadvantages? We know that to be a fact, but at what point do you think there's too much speed on it? And if there is, what is that extra speed doing? What considerations are there for fitting someone who's 120 plus on the driver's swing?
Sure, yeah.
And so what can you tell me about this particular LA shaft to begin with?
So the L Series at a 120 gram in the X Flex, just a little over that maybe, but it's definitely designed for a more stable tip section.
Okay.
So kind of along in lines with maybe like a dynamic gold or even a C-Taper to help lower spin, lower trajectory, give the player a little bit more stability through impact.
Gotcha. So everything is going to be identical. Leo plays Titleist T100 irons, standard loft Leo, no changes.
No changes.
He plays Jumbo Max grips. We've got that on both. And we're going to use the same golf ball, which is a Pro V1X. Going to let you loosen up. Well, you've loosened up already. We're going to let you get some baselines with your exact iron. Get a summary, a dispersion summary, distance, spin, everything. Switch them into the graphite, and then we're just going to analyze the raw data and see what kind of differences we see. Get feedback from Leo from feel, because I would imagine feel is probably a big factor when you get someone into graphite versus steel.
Absolutely. Balance point's a little different.
Yep.
The weighting's a little different, so we'll see how he reacts to it.
Okay. All right, Leo, so why don't you hit us a few shots with that one?
Put a hole in that thing.
Sounded very solid to me. Yep, keep swinging. You're not going to see too many 150 ball speeds in a 7-iron anywhere else, I promise you that. I've never seen that.
My screen is hurting right now.
The screen's taking the beat. Good strike. Very nice.
Okay.
Let's go one more. Nice. Okay. So let's switch you into the graphite. So switching into the graphite, Leo, just as you hit a few, give us your feedback on feel and what it feels like in transition. Obviously, we'll look at the numbers at the same time, but let us know how it's feeling for you.
So that didn't feel very good, but it turned out to be
It's a very good miss, isn't
good
it?
miss.
Got
So
away
you
with
just struck it in the heel a little bit? Sounded very solid. Beautiful.
Swing there.
That felt good. And that's that feeling when it still stayed.
It's a good recovery
It looks
shot.
like it hung on quite well. Yeah, so were you worried that one was going to go really far left?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like it was going to snap.
It actually didn't get too far offline.
Yeah.
So there's your ball speed back a bit more. I guess when you get the draw shape, you are getting a little bit more of your ball speed closer to the
It
steel.
was just better contact as well.
Great
So
strike.
even though it was slightly shut, it didn't veer off too much because your path is basically zero.
That sounded great.
Good contact.
Yeah, great strike, good shape. Really good ball speed on that too.
Yeah, that one really deflected at the top.
So we overdrew that one a little bit. Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, this was crushed. Oh, on the inside again. Still getting away with it though.
Yeah, so a slight miss hit, slightly heel, but I mean that's a dead straight ball.
It's kind of interesting. Those miss hits doesn't feel like that.
No. Okay, so looking at numbers from Leo's 7 iron. It's kind of hard to believe that this is a 7 iron.
Ridiculous.
Basically 150 ball speed on average, swinging at 108 miles an hour. You're coming slightly from the inside. Face is very consistent with that path, which is great. As we said, it's basically a 205 club for you. Hitting down on it nicely, delivered loft 18, mid 7,000 spin, which I think for you is good to keep some control on the golf ball.
Yep.
I would imagine, Matt, like you wouldn't want to see him get too low with spin.
Not too much lower, and definitely not much higher than that.
Because the ball flight is already 130 feet in the air.
Right, so more controllable on that spin. If it was closer to 7,000, dispersion might have been a little tighter.
Right, but still, this is a pretty good.
Still sufficient.
A couple that went left, but still a pretty tight dispersion circle here. Nothing too concerning. So when we switched over to, before I show everyone the numbers, what did you feel different going to the Graphite after having kind of your comfortable club in your hands?
Yeah, the first two of my regular club there was, I think, the two left ones there. A little bit of my miss.
Yes.
When I just kind of come from the inside a little bit too much, and it turns over. My shot shape is usually a little draw, so it kind of makes sense that that's my dispersion pattern, just missing long left, if anything.
Yeah.
And it felt normal. It's what I've played for a while now. So
moving into the Graphite, the first thing I want to look at before we even do numbers is dispersion wise, we're not doing too much different.
Yep.
It is technically a little bit of a bigger circle, but to be fair, you have a nice clump right on center.
yeah.
Closer
And a
to
couple of
center.
those were ones that you identified as maybe not the best strikes in the world, which is quite interesting. So I would say, from this perspective, fair enough. Your dispersion circle is a little tighter, but this clump is quite interesting. And then numbers-wise, yeah, you were very slightly lower on ball speed, very slightly lower on club head speed. You swung it very neutral. I'm not sure if that was a conscious thing or not. You swung slightly more neutral with the Graphite.
Yeah.
Carried it almost the same distance. Tack angle was almost exactly the same. Almost the same dynamic loft. Almost the same spin and 5 feet lower.
Yeah.
So if you can speak to this, Matt. My question for you would be, as a fitter, you're looking at these sets of data, going between the two of them. Is Leo a candidate to actually play that Graphite? Because the numbers do look quite good.
I would say after maybe a session of probably getting used to the overall feel, or we build it to a specific swing weight that might bring that a little closer to the right feel. I mean, just between these two dispersions, you're definitely well within your right to play a Graphite shaft.
I'm shocked at how close the numbers are, and I don't know about what you're working on with your swing, Leo. Like you mentioned, you were at times getting a bit too into out, and that concerned you about the draw. The fact that your club path got more neutral and your face path got more neutral with the Graphite, to me, I would find that quite interesting, because this is, I would assume, the type of miss you'd rather have, just slightly right at target, less of the left shots. It does seem like something you might actually want to consider playing. Again, if Matt can maybe spec him out a little bit further, and maybe that's something we can do in a future video for everyone to see, is what would the final tweak look like for Leo to potentially play Graphite, even at his, let's be honest, extreme speed, right?
I tend to react to equipment quite a bit, meaning a different swing dynamic will make my whole body feel different through the ball, especially in the transition. And this was the same. I mean, I've never in my life swung an iron Graphite shaft, so
it's a good first go.
It's a very kind of new feeling. And so if I get 50, 60 shots to get used to it, it would be interesting just to see how I would get how I would adapt to that new feel.
And I would say coming into this session, you were probably pretty skeptical, safe to say, that you would be considering a Graphite shaft that might bump out your favorite steel shaft?
Yeah, I mean, I've never considered it as being an option for me, but obviously the technology has come far, so I'm curious to test it out more and see what it can do.
I think that kind of proves the concept. Is it viable for someone at a super fast swing speed? The answer is absolutely yes. Get someone like Matt who really knows what they're doing, putting the club together. Give it a fair test side by side. I think Leo did a great job of being unbiased and just making swings. And then assess it for your game. But I've never met someone who can swing 150 ball speed on a 7-iron. So unless you're going to be at 160 miles an hour ball speed on a 7-iron, I think you could at least consider something in Graphite. if it's something you think will help you, you know, for your arthritis, or if you want
Right.
to get more longevity out of kind of your joints, or for
right.
whatever reason you might choose.
Yeah, there's definitely some advantages to it, so don't be afraid to
Don't
try
be
it.
afraid to try it.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Leo, good job.
Thanks, bud.
Okay, guys, thanks for watching.